teachers. So we meet again after a lengthy, energizing, and very engaging first phase of training. How are you all feeling? I hope you are able to apply some of the techniques and the strategies which we discussed during first phase, right, into your classroom, and do share how do you find them? Are you comfortable using them? But before we start discussing what happened in the first phase, let me introduce you all to my colleague, Ms. Tarana Patel. She is a TESOL lecturer in the University of California. She is a teacher, trainer, a professor, and she has worked in various countries as trainer and professor. She has some very important contributions on her name as far as linking language with technology is concerned, but definitely that will require a separate podcast. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're going to get to know her very soon and very closely.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you on this podcast. I have been interacting with you all on Facebook, if you may have noticed. I've been helping the RTT instructor staff post some of the information for you. And I encourage you all to participate. So please share your comments, please share your thoughts when we post. And I hope to see you sometime soon at the next session in Ladakh. In fact, I was in Leh during the kickoff of the RTT program and then proceeded to do some other work related to education and environment also in Ladakh. But since then it's been a pleasure to keep track of the RTT program through Nipa ma'am and the staff there, and to look at how you all have engaged through your photographs on Facebook and also through the feedback I've received from all of you through Nipa ma'am. So how was the last session, Nipa ma'am? I've heard that you had a lot of excitement and the photos are very animated.
Absolutely, Tarana. It was fun. It was quite engaging. It was a big learning curve for me as well. Because when I went back and reflected on my teaching practices during training, I thought I learned a lot. I'll give you just one example. I had a few participants in one of the batches. They were not able to follow English thoroughly. And the request was, could I use a little bit of Hindi? Could I infuse my language with Hindi? And I obliged. And I'm so happy to say that afterwards the reception was much, much better. Well, on the other hand, you could always say that generally as trainers, we are not allowed to use any other language while we are training, right, Taran?
Yes, yes.
But being flexible is, I think, one of the biggest virtue or practices a teacher has to adopt in order to become a flexible and effective teacher.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
So it actually gave me a lot of reflective moments. And I think I have some new ideas too for my next sessions.
This is great. After all, as teachers, we go for comprehension, right? We make sure our students understand as much as possible. So this is a great example. In fact, also, one recent Facebook post that we made was about lesson planning, and particularly Nipa ma'am shared a speaking lesson plan with all of you. Did you take a look at it? Has anybody tried it so far? If you have, please post again and tell us how it went. And maybe you won't use the entire lesson plan as it is. Maybe you might just take it as an inspiration, borrow some ideas in the process, the format, maybe the content, but do take a shot at it, try it out and tell us, right? Lesson planning is an art and a craft, just like teaching is. So, and lesson planning is an essential part of teaching. Wouldn't you agree, Nipa?
Absolutely, Tarana. However, I would like to, add here that only having a flawless lesson plan is not going to work for you. If you really want to make your classroom an engaging environment, and if you really want to have a successful lesson, there are so many other factors that go into your teaching. For example, one of them is Observation, having yourself observed by somebody. It could be your colleague, your senior, or anybody who is willing to watch, observe, and give some neutral judgment, or I would say not judgment but neutral comments about how you perform. Because I've seen, Tarana, over many years of the experience I've had of teaching different kind of people, that we end up developing a blind spot about our own capabilities as teachers. And that's where we should be really, really careful and start removing that obstacle from our developmental journey as ELT professionals. Yeah. So observation, somebody had told me, before a few years that, oh man, no, not observation, no, because that's where people will criticize us. Let me tell you, Tarana, that this is a myth. Don't you think so?
Absolutely.
Observation is not to find faults with your teaching. In fact, if you are observed correctly and actually with keeping all the observation factors in mind, if somebody observes you, then you will end up discovering so many pleasant positive facets to your teaching.
Yes.
That one day you'll feel so proud. Oh, I've journeyed so far. I've become such a good teacher by now. Yeah. So it's not just about finding faults. It is about discovering our positive aptitudes as well about teaching. And another thing is, it has nothing to do with somebody being judgmental about you.
Exactly, and that is one thing we must keep in mind.
Right. So we have to develop a neutral, healthy, and growth mindset whenever somebody asks us to either observe their lecture or ask our permission to be observed by them. Both ways we are learning, Tarana. Won't you agree?
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, as you reflected on how the program was, and beyond this podcast, you've also been sharing your own self reflections of how you've grown through this RTT training as a facilitator, as a trainer, and also what you would do better, right? So, self reflection is one, and observation is next, as in peer to peer, having your co teachers, perhaps even your seniors who have more experience than you do, inviting them to your classroom and having them be a part of your classroom, sometimes silently just to observe how everything is going, and maybe sometimes also being a part of the classroom to help you solve a challenge that you can't sometimes solve yourself. So, observation by peers has many different possibilities.
Definitely.
It is a skill you can cultivate even as an observer. So I'll tell you a little anecdote from my own example, my own story working in the USA at the University of California Riverside campus. I used to have teachers who had twice the amount of teaching experience than I did, and also some of them who were twice in age.
Oh,
so
wow.
both combinations. And I was given the responsibility to observe all of them. In this situation, I was the assigned observer, but in many situations, you can choose your observer. And what we did was we create a collaboration between the assigned observer and the teachers to be observed, so that it was not a observer fronted project. It was just not me doing it as their supervisor, but them participating in telling me what they would like to be observed for. Maybe just check how my Blackboard usage is it effective? Right. Maybe check how I'm giving feedback. Maybe check how the students are interrupting me and how I'm interrupting the students. So there are classroom management strategies you can ask to be observed and given feedback for. There is also your lesson plan itself. Tell me, I'm trying a new lesson plan. Will you come and observe how my lesson plan worked and what changes we can make to it? So it is a highly collaborative process, and it's a skill you can develop yourself as an observer and the one being observed.
So, Tarana, it's not necessary for the observer to be senior in age.
Not at all,
right?
not at all. In fact, it's like we were talking about this example when you are making a pot and you and I are making a pot on two different wheels. Our pots will be pots, but they will look different. So
Correct.
no one teacher can teach the same lesson plan in the same way.
Right.
So if it's a younger teacher with less experience, but maybe they have a new skill they have learned and they're using.
Right.
And if it's an older teacher with more experience, maybe they have these formulas that always work. Right?
Definitely.
But no matter what, in becoming an observer or observing yourself, you need attention, you need active listening, you need an analytical mindset, you need your motor skills because you're writing and observing and teaching and being observed. All these things require fine motor skills too. And you need, most importantly, an unbiased mind. And if you keep your senses open for feedback, I'm telling you, doesn't matter if even if you have 20 years of feedback experience, I can come into your classroom and gain from your teaching, and you can gain from my observation.
So that means even for being observed, you'll have to cultivate that kind of skills,
Yes.
right? In
Yes.
order to be observed
Yes.
neutrally as well as critically.
Yes.
Yeah. It requires a lot of preparation, right? At mental level.
Yes, actually. It doesn't require any preparation for you to go observe somebody or be observed on a busy day at school. But within, as you think of yourselves as teachers, as growing professionals in the teaching field, this is something that if you prepare yourself with an unbiased growth mindset, you can really take a lot of benefits out of this process.
Couldn't agree more with you, Tarana. That's perfect. Right.
Yeah. So, do you think observation is important for your development? How will it help you particularly think about this? Share it with us in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And if you would have an observation session, right? What would you gain from it? Think about this too. How would you apply what you learned in your teaching? Continue sharing with us and thinking about these questions. And I think a lot of the answers will come from our next podcast.
Correct.
Where we will go into the details about the observation process and how you can actually efficiently design it for the benefit of both the observer and the one being observed. For both, this is a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. So we'll be meeting here on the same platform very soon with a new episode, taking our discussion further about being observed and observing someone, which is one of the most important and critical practices of becoming a better teacher. So, Tarana, let's wish them a great week ahead. Happy
All
teaching,
the best.
guys.
Happy teaching.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Until we meet again.
Bye.
Please share your comments. Bye bye.